If there is one decision I took at the early stage of my transformation, it is changing the habits. And I figure that most of the results we are getting in our lives is not actually that we don't have a goal we are pursuing. It is not that we don't have a vision or we don't have a picture of what our life should look like. But the reason why we are not achieving those goals is the absence of changing our habits. And surprisingly, it might not just be about changing your habit, but inculcating new ways to spend your days. The other time I shared a video on goals you have to set for yourself to become better in life. And I figured that it is not just about setting the goals, it is actually about inculcating habits that will take you to achieving those goals. And that is why today's video is there. If you have been wondering why is it that you're not even achieving those goals you have set for yourself, and why are things not actually getting better? And this is coming from somebody that have been on about changing our life. I want you to understand that the reason why you're not achieving those goals, or the reason you are not having that life you have always wanted, is because you don't have habits in place. It's because you have not been able to inculcate the patterns daily, weekly, monthly that would sum total bring that picture you have to life. And on today's video, I'm going to be walking you through habits you need to inculcate to change your life. Now, I have divided this video into two sections. The first one is general habits you need to inculcate to help you become a better version of yourself. And the second one are the daily habits, because sometimes it takes a wholesome picture to actually get to that goal we are setting for ourselves. And that is where the general habit comes in. Then the daily habits. On daily basis, what do we do with our time? How do we spend our days? What do we do with every single minute that passes within the 24 hours from Mondays to Sundays? So, we're going to be talking about the habits in those two ways. And I hope at the end of this video, you're going to be having notions that will help you understand why you have not been able to achieve those goals yet. Let's start with the very first foundation, which is the general habits that would help you redefine your life. And the first habit is the habit of self responsibility. Most of us are living on the notion that somebody else has to do the work for us. Or we are living on the notion that when this happened, I would be able to do this. When this person attend to me, I would be able to answer this question. When this part of my life exists, I will be able to function properly in some sections of my life. But the reality of life to actually become a better version of yourself or in achieving your goals is when you are able to take responsibility, take ownership of your choices, when you are able to take charge of your emotions, and when you are able to own up to that result you are getting without blaming others. The reality is that you can't heal or grow in a victim mode. You can't have a better life where you keep thinking somebody else needs to do the work for you. When you don't begin to take responsibility for your life, most of the pictures you are looking at will cease to come to life. And that is why, when setting your goals, you need to understand that it is not just about building those pictures, it is not just about having that fantasy dream life, but the ability for you to be able to take charge of that decision, the ability for you to be able to take ownership, take responsibility for those decisions you have or created in that image. So, the habit of self responsibility is when you are able to take charge of your life. Either it happens when I want it to happen, or it happens because I am expecting somebody to do the work for me, or it doesn't happen because somebody is not doing the work for me. When you are able to differentiate these terms, you realize that your life will begin to turn around. Self responsibility is taking charge of your life without blaming others or seeking validation from others. The second habit, which is very important, I have seen most of we women fail in this aspect, and I begin to develop this habit from the very beginning of my journey, is the habit of planning and intentional living. One thing I don't joke with is that for every year I am living in, I always try to build an image, a picture of what the whole life is going to be about. This is not because I am trying to force the hand of time, but because I understand that when I have a picture, when I have a goal I am setting, I would be able to have some plans that are being mapped out intentionally so I can become a better version of myself. The reason why most of us are still living on autopilot, the reason why most of us have not seen significant changes in our lives is because we don't plan and we don't live intentionally. Find you might have gotten those goals in place. Find you might be thinking you want this thing to come to life. Find you might be thinking you wish or you desire to have this type of picture. But when you are not planning intentionally, when you don't attach every ounce of your being to see that picture come to life, you realize that you will keep living in repetition mode. And I think for somebody that is intentional about having that beautiful lifestyle, she would not have a second thought when it comes to planning things intentionally. You don't just live life on a treadmill because everything needs to be designed for a particular purpose. When you don't create your weekly goals, your monthly goals, your weekly routine, your yearly routine, do you think your life would have that massive shift you are talking about or you are hoping for? And the reality is that there is nothing like massive shift over a short period of time. You can only see a massive shift in your life when you keep repeating what you do on daily basis consistently over a long period of time. Then you can begin to see the compound effect of every single change you have accomplished over the time. So, the habit of planning and intentional living is how you are able to plan every single day of your life. Some days will definitely go out of your control. Some days will definitely come short. Some days will even happen like you don't have things in place. But as you keep doing that consistently, daily, weekly, monthly, by the time you look at your life 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 months back, forward, you realize that you are far gone from where you used to be. And the next habit is the habit of discipline and delayed gratification. Most of us are not achieving anything because we don't have that energy to discipline ourselves to do something over a long period of time without getting gratification. We want immediate gratification and we want immediate resting time. I understand that as human beings, when we do something and it gives us results immediately, there is this zeal that comes to us that we want to keep continuing doing that thing. And when the opposite happens, we always feel the need to stop, or we also always feel the urge in our stomach that maybe what we are doing is wrong and we shouldn't be doing something of such again. But the reality and the beauty of life is that most times in our lives, when we are not disciplined enough to achieve something, when we are not working enough on delayed gratification, we won't be seeing the results we are looking for. Not everything rewarding is instant. Sometimes you need to be able to spend a whole lot of time to do the things you don't even like at all, or the things that are not giving you the results immediately over a long period of time before you can actually begin to see results. Sometimes we don't necessarily have to pair discipline with results immediately. We need to pair discipline with reward. Finish a task and then rest guilt free. You don't necessarily have to wait for the results immediately because sometimes and most times the results we are looking for will only come to light over consistently doing an action without expecting the result immediately. And the fourth habit, which is very important, that I think most of us, and even myself inclusive, that I am guilty of, is the habit of financial awareness. The reason why we are struggling with money, either earning or struggling or being accountable of our financial situation, is because we lack financial awareness. That is because money stress often leads to emotional stress. And the reality is that sometimes when you don't track, not even sometimes, most times when you don't track what is entering your account, how what is entering is living, when you don't track how you are spending what is entering your account, you tend to fall short of understanding how your financial situation is going. It took me a very long period of time to actually realize that whatever is entering my account needs to be accountable for if I really want to live a transforming life. And for me to actually be intentional about building finances, not just financial stability, but building wealth to the point that I won't have to bother on the things that won't return money to my account, I need to understand that financial awareness is one of the habits you can inculcate to begin to have a better life. This actually encompasses the habit of goal setting. It is one thing to set your goal, it is another thing to have enough finance in place to be able to bring those goals to life. Because obviously, there are some goals we set that needs that financial intervention. Now, imagine when you are not accountable of where your money is going, how it is entering, and how you can begin to multiply that money in the first place to be able to help you see that picture, that goal come to life. Whatever decision you are making on your finances has to be repeated, and when you eventually become aware, you begin to take charge of how you can actually begin to use your money to build the life you want. And the fifth habit that is very important for every woman that is intentional about her life is the habit of protecting your energy. I have gotten to understand that having emotional space would do a whole lot of good on your mental health. That is because most of us are always allowing the outside people to drive the wheel of our life. We need to be able to say, excuse me, or we need to be able to establish some protocols when it comes to building our energy or even protecting or reserving our energy. Most of the things we are being interfered to or called to do is actually most times none of our business. You don't have to interfere into every situation that comes your way. You don't have to give room for every man that comes to your life. You don't have to give listening ears to most things that are even being approached. That is because the more you utilize your energy on the wrong things, the harder it gets for you to have enough energy left away for you to do the things that are actually important to and for your growth. Your energy is what you actually need to begin to build the foundation and see how the life you are building will come to life. Now imagine when you are spending this energy on the things that are not beneficial to you. Is it relationship? Is it communication? Is it your environment? Is it in terms of your business or your career or even the friends you mingle with day in and day out? Whatever you are spending or utilizing your energy on will begin to expand. Now imagine when you begin to utilize that energy on the most important and relevant areas of your life. They would expand and you begin to see positive changes where necessary. And the sixth habit that will help you build your life miraculously, even without you having second thoughts or even watching, is the habit of continuous learning. One thing I don't joke with is to always find learning. Find the opportunity to learn in every situation I find myself. That is because the more you learn, the more you begin to understand the things that are even beyond your reach. But because you are not aware, you don't seem to understand how those things work, you begin to feel most of these things are far away. I figure that no matter how the situation may be, no matter how the experience may be, there is always an opportunity for you to learn. And when you begin to inculcate the habit of learning in every single thing that happens to you, you realize that you are not just growing, but you are living and growing intentionally. You can begin by taking courses or attending training or even studying the environment around you or even studying the patterns of how you approach things and situations. You will be so surprised that there are so many things you can actually tap into that will help you become a better version of yourself. Every new skill opens new opportunities. And when you begin to get opportunity, it expands your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and as well your financial health. You can actually utilize every day by learning, even if it is just a few sentences of word that would eventually transform your life. And the seventh habit that is very important that will help you sum total the whole of this is the habit of reconnecting with your purpose. Most of us are actually failing because we don't tend to remind ourselves why we are here. Not why we are here in terms of spirituality alone, but why we are here in terms of our goals, our purpose, and our identity. What kind of life do you want to have? What kind of transparency do you want to build on this world? What kind of picture, what kind of identity do you want to project into the universe? As you are walking through every day, you need to keep reminding yourself, why are you here? Why are you doing that job? Why are you pursuing that career? Why do you dress the way you dress? Why are you with that person in that relationship? Why have you decided to say no to that thing? Over a period of time, monthly, yearly, you should be able to go back to reconnect with your purpose. Even when you want to fall short, that purpose will remind you why you are taking those decisions in the first place. And this actually prevents burnout and keeps you alive with meaning. When you are grounded, that this is the reason you are taking some decisions or taking some steps, it helps you create a better life pattern. Once in a month, which is very important, you can journal, you can ask questions, you can even go back to the books you have used to set your goal. And I talk extensively on this in one of my videos, goal setting and how you can actually set goals for yourself and the goals you are meant to be setting for yourself, because most times the reason why we are not having a good picture of our life is because we don't bring those pictures into writing. So by the time you have them written out, you can check once in a month or once in 2 months or 3 months how far you have gone and what are the things you've been missing out on and the things you can begin to do to make sure you are aligned with that purpose. Now that we have talked about the general habits you need to put in place, to become a better version of ourselves. Let's take a look at how we can break these habits down. Because habit is not just one thing you do once in a week or once in a month. It deals with what you do every day continuously till you are able to see the ripple effect on the positive of those actions. And the daily habits are the habits that would anchor the general habit so you can see that transformation you are looking for come to life. The first habit that would help you put the whole of the general habits together to become a better version of yourself or to actually redefine you, which actually build the foundational skill, is the habit of morning clarity. Most of us rush out of bed. We rush out of our bed every morning without even thinking or settling into our mind. And the beauty is that most of the things we are going to be doing for the rest of our day will be facilitated to be good or bad as a result of the way we utilize our money. Haven't you noticed that sometimes when your money is so calm, you are able to project into the day, even if you've not seen it happening yet, but you are able to have a kind of picture of how the day should look like. You have high tendency to feel relaxed to the end of the day. Even if something bad happened or something unexpected come your way, there is this part of your body inside of you that would feel settled that you have things in place and you are in control of the day. Unlike when you rush out of the bed in the morning and you just dash in, dash out without thinking of how the day would go. You have higher tendency as well to spend the whole of your day in chaos, in dilemma, because you don't have it planned out. When you wake up in the morning, spend at least 10-15 minutes of your time in stillness because this morning is meant for you to pray. I am a believer that God exists, and I always do that in the morning. I have that energy, that zeal to bring myself closer to the Almighty. And I figure that when you are able to acknowledge the presence of the supernatural being, you are anchoring the whole of your day spiritually. So, in return, it allows you to meditate. As you are praying, there is a part of you that will keep tapping into the idea that I have this in mind. I want to be able to do this. I have this picture set. I have this idea. And everything comes together to help you build that life you're looking for. And at the same time, you can also journal in that state. I can't count the number of times I have realized that every time I sit still in the morning, I begin to remember a whole lot of things I must have forgotten. And by so doing, I try to write them down as my to-do list or the things I'm going to be doing in the future that has even helped me to achieve most of the goals I've set for myself. And also, that time is when you can begin to breathe. You know, there is a way we wake up sometimes and we feel like, my God, I don't actually feel settled, or I don't look like someone that is settled. But by the time you allow yourself to relax, settle in, breathe in and breathe out, you realize that you have a whole lot of space within you for the world to begin to touch you. So, the morning clarity helps you to rest your mind. It helps you to move from chaos to calm. It helps you to actualize that today is probably or most probably going to be a good day. And that is how you can begin to build the foundation of having a better life. The second habit that would actually be an extension of the habit of morning clarity is the habit of decluttering. And I talk massively about it in one of my trainings, Get Your Life on Track. Declutter is the ability to be able to remove the things that are not necessary. And when you declutter, you realign because that space you are removing things from, something needs to be there to occupy the space so the space can become useful. Decluttering, physical and mental declutter. One thing I don't joke with is not to toy with my space. I love when my space is properly arranged. It sets me in the mood. It gives me a picture of how things should be done and how peaceful my environment is. You'll be so surprised that when you live in a physically messed environment, you tend not to be productive. It is not because it is touching you directly, but indirectly, it affects the way your brain thinks. It reflects a kind of clogged environment and message to your brain. And that might probably, highly probably affect the way you produce or you are productive in that thing. And also mentally, what I don't joke with every now and then is to make sure that I am letting go of the thing that does not add to my mental health. Because your mentals and your emotions will play a vital role in how your life will transform. So each day, try as much as possible to remove one thing that does not serve greater benefit, one thing that does not add to your peace, one thing that does not add to your growth, one thing that does not add to your existence, one thing that does not even compound to that picture you are yearning for to see about your life. It might be in terms of things or it might be in terms of thoughts. It can also be in terms of sayings that people have mentioned to you that is not helping you to become better. Decluttering daily keeps your environment and your mind aligned with your identity. And the third habit that I have learned to inculcate that is actually helpful in terms of spiritual concept to help you redefine your life is the habit of gratitude and reflection. These two things are two peas in a pod. Gratitude is when you are grateful for the things you are able to see and the things you are not even able to see. That is because spiritually we believe that when you are grateful, you begin to have the abundance mindset that wow, a lot of things are actually happening without your intervention. And by so doing, it allows you to reflect on the things that are actually there that you've not been taking note of. And subsequently, you can begin to say the things that are actually required. But when you are able to start with the intention of gratitude, you spend more energy in high vibration than looking at the things that you don't have in place. The more we look at the things we don't have in place, keeps us on low frequency that improves sadness, it increases sadness, chaos in our mind, unsettledness, thinking we have a whole world outside there that we are not being a part for. But when you are filled with grace, you realize that the world you live in is actually the world you deserve to live in. And everything that happens within that world, you see it as an opportunity to be grateful. And when you are grateful, you begin to build the abundance in every other thing you do. And as a spiritual person, I have believed that the more grateful you are, the better you become each day, and the calmer you are in receiving the blessings from the Almighty being. And the fourth habit that I had to do and build on my own that has actually helped me to become a better version of myself that I don't joke with. It is actually one of the general habits we talked about in general habits, but it can also be done on daily basis, and that is the habit of reading or listening to growth content. At this point, I need to let you understand that whatever you are spending your time on expand, just like I explained earlier. When you keep reading growth content, it gives this energy for you to be able to tap into the knowledge of those that have walked the path you are actually trying to walk in. And also, the more you keep listening to growth content, instead of spending your time on things that are not even required for your growth in the first place, you realize that you become better and better every day. There is this saying I say to myself: you become what you feed on. Whatever you are consuming is the type of energy you are going to be projecting into the universe. Haven't you wondered? The more time you spend on social media, the more accustomed you get to living fantasy lifestyle, the more accustomed you get to looking inside the growth of the others instead of you focusing on your growth. And by so doing, you begin to compare and contrast where you don't have sufficient provision. But when you are able to read and listen to growth content, it inspires you. It gives you the motivation of others. It gives you that major ingredient you need to have to be mindful and be present of the life you are actually living presently. You can actually pair reading with other things you are doing, like cleaning the house, mopping the floor, arranging your closet, and doing the likes of them. And on social media now, we have various sections and attributes of places where you can begin to read and even do the activities you love. So reduce the time you spend on social media, pages that are not helpful to your growth, to reading and listening to growth content. And the fifth habit that I don't joke with, which I so much love, is the habit of moving your body. You see, that gentle exercise you are running away from does a whole lot of good, a whole lot of good to your health. Gentle exercise, stretching, walking on daily basis will help you to become physically fit. And just like we have taught in our secondary school days, physical and health education, when you are able to move your body continuously over a period of time, it improves your respiratory system. It also helps you in good digestive system. It also helps your muscle to be able to stretch, contract and relax efficiently, and it also improves the circulation of blood in your body. I can continue listing this over and over again. You don't have to indulge in strenuous exercise, but moving daily, walking for about 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes on daily basis will do a whole lot of good for you. So you can actually use this opportunity or this time while you are moving to clear your mind. I have always done something. Whenever I'm going somewhere, I try to plug in earpiece, listen to podcasts, or even begin to think about the goals I want to achieve. And by so doing, I realize that one way or the other, somehow I begin to have different thoughts. And whenever I look at the left hand side or right hand side, I begin to see a reflection of the kind of life I'm trying to build. By so, something pops in, an idea jumps in, and I begin to have something to think about till I'm able to get to wherever I'm going. Sometimes the reason why you don't have motivation is because you feel so heavy. And have you tried to imagine what your body would look like when you eventually begin to move your body on daily basis? In fact, that fat you are trying to burn, that calorie you think you have in your body, that heaviness you think you have in your body that looks like it is not going anywhere might actually be facilitated by you not moving your body. And the sixth habit that is really, really important for you to be productive is the habit of focused work blocks. See, I work 9, or let me say I work 7 to 4 p.m. Mondays to Thursday and 7 to 2 p.m. on Fridays. And I can tell that a whole lot of things can happen within the working hours. People would eventually spend your time for you when you are not patient enough to have that habit of focused work blocks. People would come, chit chat, talk, nag, complain, but there are ways you need to be able to spend your time judiciously, not by resenting others in their presence, but by building a kind of boundary, establishing some protocols on how you are committed to your work. By planning your day around 1 to 2 deep focus hours, no distraction, and what I do at my workplace, because I am a teacher presently, I try to look for empty rooms here and there that I can sit in for 2 hours. I am recording my video in my workplace and I have the door locked. I have the windows closed, just the window on the other side so that nobody would notice I am here. And even if anybody should notice, before they can have access to come here, it will take them a whole lot of stress. And by combating with that stress, they eventually get tired and lose interest, then walk away. Sometimes you need to be able to establish some protocols. You need to be able to build walls around those life or those decisions you are trying to do because people are bound to intrude. People are bound to look into your activity. People are bound to look into your affairs. But the more you keep giving them access, the harder it gets for you to start taking charge of your life. Every day, try as much as possible to work on 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or even you'll be surprised that sometimes you spend a whole lot of hours doing the things you love and you get trapped into it that you even forget that time has passed. But on daily basis, to actually set the pace, 1, 2 hours will do you a whole lot of good. And the habit of self care checking. I have gotten to realize that the body is an engine, and when you don't feed it with what is actually important, it begins to shut down gradually till it becomes of no use to you. On daily basis, try to look at your body. It might just be when you are taking your bath. That is more than enough. That's when you have access to look at the full picture of what you have on you. When you're taking your bath, take some time to massage, to press, to check, to even look at yourself in the mirror. And immediately you notice that there are certain areas of your body that needs to be worked on. I am not asking you to be looking at the size of your belly alone. I am not asking you to be looking at the stretch mark on your skin. I am asking you to think and ask yourself how you feel every day. Do I feel energized? Do I feel motivated? Do I feel disciplined? Do I feel like I'm lagging? What happened yesterday? Is it still affecting me? And that is what I want you to look at because that is how you can begin to build awareness because it prevents you from burning out and emotional numbness. Sometimes when we feel drained, we feel like our energy is out of place. It is as a result of us not checking ourselves properly. Now we've been able to talk about the general habit, which is the very core foundation, and we've been able to also dismantle the daily habits that would anchor the general habits. But what I have gotten to understand is that you don't necessarily have to start with a whole lot of these habits. You can just start with one. And that one you're starting with is how you are already here. The habit of reading and listening to growth content. And now that you have that habit, you can begin to work on the habit of moving your body. Gradually, one after the other, you begin to set the pace. You can as well choose 3 daily habits and choose 2 general habits to begin with. And by so doing, for somebody like me, the general habit I started with is the habit of protecting my energy because I figure that there are certain things I always put my mouth to that are not even necessary. And the habit of continuous learning. I figure that the more I learn, the easier it gets to become a better version of myself. Then I picked the general habit of self-care because I figure that I have been neglecting my body. The habit of reading and listening to growth content. Then I also inculcate the habit of morning because I figure that every morning I have to be able to sit down and plan my day. One thing you should understand is that there is something called consistency, time factor, and details. And I always say this in most of my videos. For you to be able to see that result you are looking for, you need to be consistent. And that consistency needs to be done over time. And as you are being consistent with time management or time conscious, you realize that sometimes you fall back into your old pattern. That is not an opportunity for you to let go of that part. It is just a reminder that you are human, and whenever you fall short of your habit, you can always return back. You can always recommit back. Now that you have those habits in place, you don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to start living like the version of you that is already free. And you can actually start that by utilizing the power of habits. And I'm going to be seeing you in my next one. Bye.